TNN TV proudly presents.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars.
Good evening, America. Welcome to the second episode of the American Verdict. Today we have an explicitly good and well-known politician of the European Union, especially France, here at our studio, Mr. François Hollande.
Bonjour, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Nice to have you in the show. So, Dan, would you like to start with the first question?
Yeah, so we've seen talks going on and on and on about a nuclear weapon-free zone in the Middle East. Do you believe that in near or further future there is even a possibility?
Absolutely, I do believe, Mr. Beck, that it is a possibility and that we will succeed implementing and establishing such a nuclear weapons-free zone. It is absolutely adamant to push for such a nuclear weapons-free zone, especially in the Middle East. Now, when we talk about a nuclear weapons-free zone, obviously in recent times Iran has been on the radar of of media activity, and especially in light of a nuclear weapons-free zone, one is to carefully distinguish in the nuclear efforts of Iran and to better make sense of it.
Yeah, but Bill O'Reilly, we have heard this so often. Bill, what do you say?
We often hear just that there will come some kind of free zone, but how do you like to ensure that?
Well, as you may know, there have been negotiations going on the 15th to the 16th of October in Geneva. The meeting was convened by the P5+1 states, and we met Iran, and the meeting was overly positive. Iran has proven that it's willing to change its diplomatic tones at least, but one is to be careful and not to get carried away, because obviously Iran hasn't produced any evidence that it's definitely not going to pursue.
Because it's just one is acting and the other thing is talking.
Yeah.
And Iran is definitely now going to talk.
That's it. He himself was talk. It's just
yeah,
talk.
we know it from the Europeans, but to be fair, yes, it's quite alright. They're talking a bit different that Ahmadinejad did now, but the action should be there.
Well, I think one is to remain objective here, and I strongly object what you're insinuating, Mr. Beck. I do not believe that you are to discard any proposals that Iran has tabled. I think one is to remain cautious and to await any proposals in the evidence sector that Iran is going to produce, and that is going to take time. I don't expect that this is going to happen overnight. The next round of negotiations between the P5+1 and Iran is going to convene on November the 7th, and we are anticipating positive exchanges again. But I can only remind you that France is always pursuing a diplomatic strain that is driven by both firmness and dialogue. We are always willing to remain in a diplomatic manner and to solve our problems in a diplomatic fashion.
Yeah, we've seen that, of course, in Libya, your diplomatic actions, which were quite great. But the other issue...
But that was just Christmas, to be fair.
Yeah, come on.
France for European means, they have shown a very strong foreign policy. That's why I wanted to ask you, what is the contribution that France and Europe in general is going to make to establish peace in the Middle East?
Well, for one, there's a huge difference between Europe and the European Union. As you know, France is one of the biggest countries in the European Union. France is also one of the permanent members of the UN Security Council. We have an extremely big responsibility for the maintenance of international peace and security. We're quite aware of that. France has also been a permanent contributor to the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, which is not particularly in the focus on these discussions. we have always tried to pursue an agenda that is going to improve the current problems that we face.
Yeah, that's me to another point, because talking about European Union and things like that, we know your point, we know the point of France,
Yes.
but the question is, you said before that talking is European style of politics, that it is. So what's the common point of the European Union on the topic?
Well, the factor that I think you, Mr. Beck and O'Reilly, are forgetting is that the European Union is one of the big constituents of the Permanent Five, and we are actively shaping the UN Security Council resolutions, and we're taking an active part in solving these issues.
That's
Now,
right.
as to the question of how the European Union member states are finding a concluding agreement, that is not always easy, but one would not expect it to be easy. If it were easy, one wouldn't hold a very high value of its member state.
According to your opinion on the European Security Council, we're going to talk to Lady Ashton later on.
Yes.
Maybe she's going to like that. But no matter what.
But we always hear about time, it takes time, we have time. Do we really have the time when there is war coming up, a probable war? I mean, of course we've seen change in Iran, but I still hear the former Prime Minister Ahmadinejad say we have to erase Israel from the map.
I believe, for one, that he was president.
Yeah.
And for on another note, I don't think that we are on the way to war. I strongly object to that insinuation too.
So what kind of way are we for?
I think that
Still peace.
what you are maybe trying to get to is that the situation is to be monitored closely, and France is sharing their opinion. What we have to do is to get the IAEA into Iran. That is one of the biggest objectives that France is pursuing. Why do we have to do that? I think at the moment, when we look at the 28th of August reports on NPT safeguards in Iran, we quickly realize that certain things haven't been done in Iran. Yeah? The IAEA has tabled a strategic agreement which hasn't been signed by Iran. At the moment, there are 3 nuclear facilities that aren't under IAEA safeguards, and you can all read that in the report. But
So
certainly, without any, it's all there. I agree. When we talk about lifting sanctions and loosening sanctions, it is France's opinion that we have to move on these issues. We have to ameliorate the situation. That means that we have to clarify the remaining issues of the unmonitored nuclear facilities in Iran.
Okay,
So
maybe we have one last question.
Yeah, have one in mind. You too, maybe?
Well, yeah,
So let's go.
Go ahead.
Start over.
Well, I was just going to ask, because France has shown a pretty strong military appearance in Africa.
Yes.
Would you also, in case of a gloomy war, strengthen your military appearance in the Middle East to protect, I mean, Israel is also an ally of you, to protect Israel's existence? Would you do that?
In theory, yes, but it will also depend on the circumstances. If you could,
So what are the
Well, circumstances.
Yes, so what are the preconditions to that?
preconditions is that we want to move without a UN Security Council resolution. There's no such thing in international law as an abiding current and existing law. There are extant rules that have to be complied with, and that means that we cannot simply take measures of our own. Now, when we talk about a certain scenario, I would be willing to give a more concrete answer.
Okay, well,
Okay, let's say Iran, we know that Iran is going to have, let's say, 80% enriched plutonium by the end of the month.
By the end of this month.
Yeah.
Well, what I can certainly say is that France would not take a unilateral action.
Alright.
What we would do is, in the instant of learning that this is happening, push for a UN Security Council meeting And I would assume that the resolution would be adopted rather quickly. But
Really?
this whole notion of playing world police does not apply to France. It may apply to the United States, but
It's about securing peace, it's not war politics.
we are not willing to pursue matters and take matters in our own hands without complying with international law, and we will always consult with our partners first.
Okay, good.
I think we should leave it. I think we should leave it.
Let's stay there. We made a point clear. Let's move
We
on.
agree to disagree.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. Let's move on to another topic, other region.
Yes.
North Korea.
Yes.
Same issues. We heard a lot about your opinions on Iran. Not so quite much about North Korea. Could you just lay out quite brief? How is your opinion on North Korea?
Well, let's put matters into perspective. We have two states that have been critically concerning France. But what's the differentiating point? In Iran, you have a country that has ratified the Non-Proliferation Treaty.
That's right.
As you know, North Korea has pulled out of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. North Korea has also done nuclear atomic explosions. It has experimented twice,
As we know.
and
As France did earlier.
quite so.
I mean, also when you care, but we are not some martyrs like North Korea. So,
In sum, I think we are to remain more cautious about the North Korean case than we are to remain about the Iranian case. Now, I know that for you as a traditional news network, there is a heightened interest in both scenarios, but most probably for the Israeli-Iranian conflict. What I can say about the North Korean case is that we have seen provocations, and not only provocations, we have seen hostilities caused by the North Korean army in two cases. We have seen the Kyonin case, where a South Korean ship has been torpedoed, and many soldiers had to die, unfortunately. And we have also seen the Pyongyang case, where both civilians and the armed forces died in the course of illegal artillery shelling. Both of these things are condemned by France. We're not willing to accept anything like this, and neither are we willing to accept the nuclear program that North Korea has pursued.
that's a bit another sound of like your point on Iran. That sounds like getting in there, getting your boots on North Korean territory.
Not without a UN Security Council.
Again, so alright.
Okay. They trust the UN. They still trust the UN, but that's fine.
Okay,
Okay.
we can do
But-
we can work it out. But go ahead.
On what part?
Well, I think that's fine. What we just heard.
You want to leave it there? Just simply that?
I don't know. I think he made.
Okay, he's a nice guy.
He's relying on the Security Council, and that's it.
I
Bottom
do
line.
not
that's
favor.
it.
I do not favor what I'm hearing. Yeah, I think what you're insinuating again does not wholesomely reflect what France stands for. France itself has a responsibility as a country and as a country within the international community. When we look at the responsibility to protect, one is not to mistake the responsibility to a blank check, to simply just to intervene in any country. That we cannot do. France is not supporting anything like this. We are always to consult with the international community first.
As I
And
said,
that means with the UN Security Council.
Council before, well, whatever. Okay, we can leave it there.
Okay, Mr. It was a pleasure to have you here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gents, at your home and your televisions, thanks for watching our second episode of American Verdict. Have a good night, and may God bless American United States of America.
And happy Halloween.
Oh, of course, too. Bye.
Au revoir.